Well, if you're interested in starting a Christmas tree farm, or maybe you want to start a tree lot, we just finished our 5th year here at Woods Tree Farm in Virginia, and I can give you all of the details of what worked well for us this year, a few things that we've changed, and maybe some things that we added or did differently this year that didn't work so well. So stick around. It's going to be a lot of information in this one. So a couple videos ago, I gave you guys some updates about some changes on the property and some things that we're doing different. So now I'm following up to give you an update on how some of those things went. So if you didn't see the previous video and you want to go back and see it, I'll put a link to that video in this video's description, or you can just scroll back in our video history and look at a couple of the other videos from December in there, and you'll see those updates. So on the side of what went well, I shared with you guys how we expanded our parking area. We spent a lot of money on new gravel. We tried to make things more organized up here, and all in all, this worked out really well. We had more room and it was easier to get people in and out, and this is probably the one thing that I would say is the biggest headache for us, or has been the biggest headache in past years. And as our farm grows, I could see it continuing to be somewhat of a challenge, because we will need to make this parking lot even bigger in the future. But parking is definitely something that I think you want to give some thought to if you're just starting out, because people are crazy with parking. Let me just say that. And more or less, unless you have a perfect parking lot with, you know, that's paved, that has stripes like a, you know, grocery store parking lot, you can't really expect people to do it on their own 100%. And if you're going to be busy and you need every space, you're going to have at times a staff member or a volunteer in the parking area to try to keep things organized. Otherwise, it's just pure chaos. The best idea I've come up with yet related to parking is paint some landscape timbers yellow and space them out in about the equivalent spacing of parking spaces, and that works out okay. People are still crazy. They're going to take up 2 or 3 spots if given the opportunity. So again, you're going to have somebody up here or up in your parking area telling people what to do, or getting people to correct their parking if they do it really poorly, because otherwise you're going to run out of space in a hurry. So I mentioned in that December update video some different layout with our tree lot. That went perfectly well. I really couldn't imagine it much better. So you can go back and check out that video on how that went. I think the only change that we actually made on our, I forget if we did it on the 2nd or the 3rd weekend, but we had our largest trees along this fence, on both sides of that fence, and there were more trees in that direction. And then we had kind of our prep area on this side of the gate, and people were wanting to kind of cut through our prep area to get over to this side. So we actually took out a section of wooden fence that was right here, so we could create a walkway and we could, you know, keep people out of our prep area. You know, just walking that extra 8 feet around that table to get over here was too much for 90% of people, and instead they cut right through where we had our chainsaw and our shaker machine between the table and that gate there, and that drove me crazy. So I said we need to take out a section of this fence and get people to come through. So think about your I was going to say your workflow, but it's not your workflow. Think about the flow of people, the flow of movement as people are navigating around your tree lot. People are always going to take the path of least resistance, and if that path is through the least convenient area for you, they are absolutely going to take that and get in your way. So you've got to think about the layout. Next up, let's talk about tree sales a little bit. I've done some videos in past years where I've gone into explicit detail on you know, how much we sold, how much money we made, what our costs were, what the profit was. I'm getting away from some of that, partially because I just don't think it's particularly relevant to what you guys are doing. If you have some really specific questions that you want to ask about running this type of business, you can always direct message me or something like that, and I'll try to answer what I can. But the very specific details of what we're doing here with our business, I just felt like, you know, as we grow, we need to start to keep some of this stuff a little bit private. But I am going to go into some of the details of what has sold well, how our total volume has changed relative to previous years, and I'm going to share with you some products that didn't sell as well. I have talked in previous years about our point of sale. We use Square for everything that we do here on the farm. It makes it really easy for tracking inventory, tracking sales, and comparing sales to previous years. So I was able to pull up that information and compare it to what we've done in previous years. And I did notice a few things different this year, and I think we're going to make some adjustments for next year. But the first thing I wanted to share with you guys, and this is under the topic of products that have done well on the farm, and in short, we have had this year record non-tree sales. I've kind of done a high level categorization of trees versus not trees. Under the category level of the non-tree sales, our top category of course was wreath classes, which we started doing a couple years ago and have proven to be an exceptional revenue generator, and it's something that we can do outside of our normal business hours, so it really expands the opportunity for the total revenue for the farm. So we did more wreath classes this year than we've ever done, and of course that was at the top of our list for non-tree revenue. And then while we were open, we have our top categories here come out to be what we call our private label, which we have a number of products with our name on it. So it includes jams, jellies, barbecue sauces, salad dressings, coffee, candles, and those kinds of things. The private label stuff was definitely at the top of the list. The next category, maybe not too surprising, but is our what we call our handmade category. These are the things that we make ourselves for sale on this property, and this year we expanded that list to include some homemade food products. So we had some cakes and fudge and that kind of thing, and we've always done wood slice ornaments, and my wife this year expanded the number of handmade ornaments she's done. So anyway, that the collective handmade category has really grown over the years, and this year it was our second largest category overall. And then the third category was our wreaths and greens. So all of the handmade wreaths that we make here, the centerpieces and other decorative stuff out of the kind of waste greens from the tree lot is the largest, or the third largest rather, category. Now this is a change from previous years, because in previous years wreaths and greens were always the highest category. So the fact that we've added more of our private label products and we've added more handmade products has boosted those categories to the top of the list to be even higher than our wreaths. So that is the big part of the driver behind why our why our total non-tree sales have grown the way that they have. As far as the individual products go that have done best for us, and this is a shift from previous years, the top 4 items I'll go over here on the list are our wreaths, of course. So we had both 12 and 14-inch wreaths. That's the metal ring size. The finished wreaths are 20 to 24 inches wide, depending on how they're made up. And so those were the top 2 wreath items. And then s'mores were actually the top individual item next on the list, with over almost $700 in s'more sales. So when we're looking at individual products, that was kind of a surprise, but maybe not so much. That's become a really popular thing that we do here. And then our Woods Tree Farm candles is next on the list, and tree stands after that. So as far as individual products go, with wreaths, the candles, and the tree stands being the 3 of the top 4 products, I think that's probably would hold true for pretty much any farm or tree lot out there. Those are obviously really popular, and in the case of tree stands, very essential item for the tree lot. So I think that's something that if you're not carrying those kinds of products, or you haven't thought about carrying those kinds of products, you absolutely should have, because consistently those have been in the top 5 products for us every year. We'll talk briefly about trees. We did have more trees than ever. We sold over 400 this year, which, as far as, you know, the relative scheme of things out there, there's plenty of tree farms and tree lots that sell thousands of trees, and we're just not that kind of operation, at least not yet. I mean, I kind of hope we can get to that at some point. But when we laid out this business and when we laid out our field, we kind of tried to set ourselves up for 1,000 trees a year. Now, that's 1,000 trees a year harvested from the property, and we're still a long ways away from getting to that point. But the fact that we've been able to grow to over 400 pre-cut trees, if we can continue to do those kinds of numbers in the future and start to harvest some trees from the property, I can see us getting over 1,000 in future years. But I think as far as long-term what we can do from this property, there's probably not going to be much more than that. So I want to share that all the time, because I think as people are watching this, they want to kind of understand, you know, what size we're dealing with, because some of our layout that I share with you and some of the operational things that I share with you, we're probably somewhat limited in how big this can really get based on how we have things laid out. And if you have goals to do significantly more than we're doing, you're probably going to have to lay things out differently. So let's talk about a few things that didn't go as well this year. Now, as far as the operations go, I shared with you some things that we did differently, and for the most part, everything that we changed worked out really well. One thing that was new for us this year is that we did have a few trees ready to cut off the property for the first time. So just that whole experience of having customers go out, cut their own trees, and then getting those trees back here was new to us, and it's something that I think we need to improve upon in the future. It is a little bit of a hike to get out to the field and to get a tree back. So we generally will haul the trees for the customers, but having an extra person at the ready to go and retrieve those trees, we didn't have that many trees available, so there are oftentimes were just one or two families in the field, and there were oftentimes no families in the field. So it wasn't like we could just dedicate one person full time to driving back and forth and retrieving trees. Once our field is well established, maybe that'll be the case, but for now we kind of struggled, and it was kind of like, well, okay, a family's going out in the field, who's free, who can go retrieve their tree when they're ready, and it was a little bit of a logistical issue every time somebody came. So that's something that we'll have to really think about in future years, and hopefully, get a little bit better so that things run a little bit smoother with those. In some cases, there were people that came back, and we use a two-part tag system, so they would bring their half of the tag back and say, okay, we cut our tree, and we'd say, okay, where is it? And they go, oh, well, it's still out in the field, and then we have to go get it. And it's not that big a deal. They would come and get their hot chocolate and hang out by the fire or go in the shop, and we've got things for them to do. It wasn't like anybody was really waiting around for it, but for us at least, it kind of felt like it was a little bit clunky. So on the sales side of things, a couple things that we're going to do a little bit different. As far as our product selection, I did mention that our private label stuff was at the top of the total revenue list, but we did have quite a few things left over. So I think we kind of grew the product list too fast. We had too many choices, and then we had some products left over at the end of the season. So we're going to pare that down in the future. There were a couple things that didn't sell as well. So for example, there were some salad dressings, and maybe that's a seasonal thing. Maybe we'll sell more salad dressings in the summer when we're open for flower picking season. But as far as a Christmas item, they didn't really move that well. And then the other thing was, and maybe if you've watched our videos over the years, you recall in previous years, for several years now, we've had Woods Tree Farm coffee, and we had this proprietary Christmas blend coffee that has done exceptionally well for us in the past, and we sold out of it again this year. The mistake that we made was we thought, well, we'll expand the list and we'll have a second option, because the Christmas blend is a dark roast coffee. Maybe we'll have something that's lighter, more medium, available for people to sell. Well, hardly any of that sold, even after the Christmas blend was gone. on. So we have a lot of that product left over, and it's just, you know, I think there's a novelty of having a Christmas blend at a Christmas tree farm, and people really liked picking that up. But the other blend, I think people just felt like, well, you know, I don't, there's nothing really special about this, so, you know, I'm not going to go ahead and buy it. Maybe that's what it was. I think also there was a little bit of an economic pullback this year, because when I crunched the numbers, there was one kind of formula that I look at, and I did this last year, maybe some of you guys remember. I looked at the total amount of non-tree sales versus number of trees that were sold. Last year we had $34 in non-tree sales per tree sold, and it's been my goal to grow that over time, and we have grown that significantly over time. A couple years ago it was just $14 per tree, and then it went up to like 17 or 19, and last year was 34. This year was actually 33. So I do feel like people are pulling back a little bit, and you know, it's just the kind of the nature of the you know, the economy that we're in right now, and I think people are just being a little bit more conservative with their dollars, and it definitely, you know, showed up in our numbers at the end of the year. I know this is starting to get to be a little bit of a long video, but I had, like I said, a whole page of notes that I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully this information was valuable to you. If there's something else you want to know, if there's something I didn't answer for you, let me know in the comments. If there's something very specific about operating this business that you want to know, like I said, you can always message me or something like that, and I'll try to get you the information that you're looking for. And you know, until next time, hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.